Hello again, Roy.RealEstate here with Coldwell Banker Legacy in San Angelo. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about additions and how they can affect the value of your home. So it's common, have a back porch. Well, we need a little more square footage, and people will close that back porch in and put air conditioning in it, and use it as a sitting area or sunroom or whatever. And so then when they get ready to sell their house, they think they should get additional value for that because the house went up in square footage by whatever that 250 square feet. Say you had a 2,000 square foot house before, and now it's 2,250. So you should get some extra value for that. The issue comes in with how the appraiser is going to look at it. And remember, because the appraiser is working for the lender, they want to make sure that your house is really worth what you're paying for it, because if they have to take it back, they want to be sure that they can turn around and sell it for something close to what you paid for it. So they're going to come in there and they're going to look at it. There's guidelines with it. There's specific guidelines with FHA and VA, but even a normal conventional appraisal, you're going to have some very similar things. So what they're going to look at when they look at that addition is, A, is it connected to the house? Sometimes, somebody will have an addition that's separate from the house. That has value, but it doesn't have necessarily the same value as the house. So if it's connected to the house, basically you just walk through a doorway to get into it without having to go outside first. That's one of the things they look at. The second thing they're going to look at is it finished out just like the rest of the house? If the rest of the house has tile, does this have tile on the floor, or does it have just bare concrete? The walls, are the walls finished just like they are in the living room, or are they a lot of times in a back porch or whatever? When they close it in, they'll leave brick and stuff like that, which is all fine. It just, when the appraiser looks at that, they may or may not be willing to give you the same value for that square footage as they are for the rest of the house. So the wall coverings, the windows, all the fixtures, does it look like the rest of the house? When you walk from the house, from the living room, say if it's a back porch, to that back porch, is it clear that anyone over 6 years old will know that you walked into something that was an add-on? And if it was, there's a real good chance you're not going to get that full amount of value. The other thing to look at is it heated and cooled? Now, the FHA and VA guidelines only require that it be heated, but in a realistic world, if it's not heated and cooled, it's not comparable to the rest of the house. So it's not finished the same way as the rest of the house. So if it's not finished the same way as the rest of the house, then that appraiser can't give you full value of it. So just an example, say you're trying to sell your house and your agents come up with, about $120,000 $120 a square foot for the value of your house. But you've included that square footage of that added on back porch or whatever. So when the appraiser comes in and looks at it, they'll probably give you that, say, oh yeah, we see we can justify from comparable sales that $120 a square foot on the main part of the house, but this addition isn't finished the same or isn't heated and cooled or whatever the differences are, and therefore we're not going to give you as much for it. And that can be a substantial reduction, it can be a minor reduction, and some of that's a judgment call, and it depends on the appraiser. Appraisers are humans too. They have opinions, and they try to do their best to make the guidelines that they're given, the written guidelines, fit the situation, but it's not an exact science. So it will depend some on the appraiser doing it. So they may say, okay, well, we're going to give you $120 a square foot for the main part of the house, but for this addition, we're only going to give you $50 a square foot. So that difference of $70 a square foot on 200 or 300 square feet turns into a lot of money. And a lot of times this comes late in the process when the appraisal's done, if you're not aware of it and hadn't thought about it. And so you've got a contract, you're ready to close in another week or two, and then the appraisal comes in low because they didn't count that square footage at full value. So it's difficult, it's complicated at that point. You got to try to work it out between the buyer and the seller, and it's not a good situation for anybody, because both the buyer and seller, they were fine with it the way it was. But because the lender's not, then you can't move forward. So what are the things you can do about it? Well, if you're doing an addition, one of the things, if you can afford to, is go ahead and bring it up to the level of the rest of the house. Put wall coverings on those walls, finish the floor just like the rest of your house. If you have a step down going into it, you may want to try to fix that step down where it's less obvious. Make it seem like it's a seamless transition from the rest of the house, just like you're walking into another room. So that'll help a lot. But sometimes, just for financial reasons and just practical reasons, a porch will typically have a fairly good slope to it. Well, it's a little bit harder to fix those kind of things. So, and again, do you want to spend the money on it? So then it's just a matter of being aware that when you get ready to sell it, that you may not get that full value for that square footage, and thinking about that. Now, if the buyer and the seller both figure this is livable square footage and we're going to use it, that's all fine, as long as you can get the lender to agree with you. So anyway, that kind of explains parts of it. If you're the buyer and you see something like that, just be aware that could be an issue with the appraisal, and you got to figure out what you're going to do at that point. And it's basically the negotiations are open again because the appraisal didn't come in at the agreed upon contract price, and so you've got to figure out what can we do to either lower the price to what the appraiser said, or the deal goes away if you're unwilling or unable to do that between the two parties. So it can be a complicated situation, and because it's something that happens at the last minute again, that can make things really difficult. You're planning on moving in or out, whichever it is, in a week or two, and this happens. So it's one of the things we need to talk about when I'm first out there looking at your house, if you're selling, and figure out and then take that into account when we're pricing the house, and see that we've priced it appropriately for the neighborhood and with that addition. If a lot of the other ones have add-ons, it may not be that big of an issue, but it can be, and it can be, again, a last-minute issue, which is a pain for everyone's concerned. So that's all for today. Any questions, give me a shout. Roy.RealEstate, 325-268-0775. Thank you.